Hello Kaiju fans, welcome back to the Kaiju World Order. My name is MM, and this is Monster of the Week, the second one for 2026, as voted on by the members of the Kaiju Hugbox Discord server, which you can join via the link in the actual page for this channel. This week's monster is none other than Zigra, the space shark from Daiei's 1971 awesome movie, Gamera vs. Zigra. If you've never seen this movie, it's a trip. Showa Gamera is always a trip. They are made for kids, but they get pretty graphic compared to the Toho movies at the time. But thank God the blood that Gamera bleeds is green. Alas, Zigra, as I said, is a space monster. It is actually a very unique space monster for kaiju films, as most monsters are like weapons. Zigra himself is the alien. It's something you see more along the lines in an Ultraman, but Zigra is actually the invader himself. Now, for this, just like we did last time, this is going to be more about going into Zigra's powers, and how he could really contend with other monsters when you take him out of the Gamera universe. So for this, we're only going to be talking about the Showa Zigra, not the Rebirth one. It won't include the Dark Horse Comics Zigra, which is virtually just the same thing as the Showa one, just kinda dialed down a little bit and without the invader status. He's more along the lines of just a space monster that some aliens use to invade. So, with all that covered, Zigra comes to Earth in a ship that can be best described as looking like a sombrero. This thing just looks weird. It has your basic weaponry for a spaceship, your teleporter. You got a laser beam that it can use to blow up buildings and stuff like that. And then it can also go into the water, since it is a space sea monster. Zigra does come from a world that, as he says, eats what's on the land, and they live in the sea, so it's a switch up to what goes on with Earth. And they have been drawn to Earth looking for a new home, and yeah, humankind is just a food source to them. Now, Zigra has some interesting powers on his own. It's not really known if this is technology or if it's like an actual ability, but he is able to communicate telepathically, seemingly over the entire planet. He can pinpoint those he speaks to, or he can just do like a mass, yo, this is what's going on. So, Zigra starts his attack on the moon. He abducts a astronaut, turns her into his little human henchman, and then starts his conquest of the Earth. They create massive earthquakes around the globe until they get the attention of Gamera. Once Gamera arrives, this is when the ship is blown up, and we finally see Zigra for what he really is, and that is a gigantic shark monster thing with a beak. The design is actually very reminiscent of a goblin shark. Now, when Zigra is exposed to the depths of the ocean, the difference in the pressure causes him to grow gigantic, even bigger than he was inside the spaceship, and he then starts to fight Gamera. This is where we see Zigra's really in his element. His fins, his dorsal fins, everything are razor sharp, and they cut Gamera up something fierce. Gamera is spewing blood until he's able to really get the upper hand, and once the fight moves on to land, Gamera has the upper hand for most of it, holding Zigra's tail down until Zigra switches to a land form. This is where he's able to stand up on his hind fins, which become more along the lines of legs. He then is able to shoot a yellow beam from that red jewel on his face. This actually stops all molecular movement on a cellular level. So what this means is Zigra is pretty much putting them into a form of suspended animation. So this is how he enslaves humans, makes them do his bidding, and just all around just freezes Gamera in place. Without Gamera, there's really no hope left for humanity as earthquakes continue to rock cities around the world, and then Gamera eventually pops back up. How he pops back up? A convenient thunderstorm. Taken straight out of Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, Gamera comes back via lightning. A new fight breaks out, and this time Gamera is able to pretty much incinerate Zigra before he can use the paralysis. Now, when we take Zigra out of the movie and put him into, say, again, I'm just going to use the Showa Godzilla universe because 70s. Zigra could be a threat for a lot of monsters when the fight is around the water. Put him against, say, Titanosaurus, there's a good chance he might just cut Titanosaurus' head off. Just because of how he fights and can move underwater. He is not limited to a man in suit when he's in the water like this, even though he can lean back onto his hind legs again when he's in the water fighting Gamera. But when in the water fighting, he definitely prefers to do his fish form, which is kind of expected being he's a shark. The one thing that Zigra really has going for him is that paralysis ray, which is almost a one-hit KO. Additionally, it can go past armor plating. It's able to paralyze humans that are going down inside a bathysphere and nearly kills them, but luckily, putting them into a state of suspended animation actually prevented them from dying from oxygen loss. So, good job, Hero Zigra. But would this work on, say, Super Mechagodzilla with diamond plating armor and human pilots? It's a big if. It worked on Gamera very, very fast, despite him having a shell. The only problem with this is it's not the move Zigra just uses right out the gate. It's almost like a desperation attack. And in that type of scenario, when you put Zigra against, say, Mechagodzilla, he's probably going to get blown up before he can actually break it out. If he does break it out against Mechagodzilla, there's also, we don't really know what it's going to do to something that's mechanical. And that's a big hang up with Zigra. Then just going even further on why someone like Mechagodzilla would pretty much destroy Zigra almost instantly. Zigra is very flammable. Now, you could argue that Gamera's flames are super hot, and there's no doubt that they are. From the feats that we've seen him do with his flamethrower, it's obviously not just a normal flamethrower. But Zigra burns literally to ash in seconds. That is a lot of meat to burn to ash. Now, as I said, he is a fish, so it kind of makes sense, but even then, imagine what, say, a gravity bolt or Godzilla's ray would do to this thing. If he doesn't use his paralysis ray right away, he's going to get taken out. Now, it should also be noted that the Dai monsters are often a lot lighter than Toho Kaiju. Toho Kaiju, such as Godzilla, are generally in thousands of tons. Gamera Kaiju are generally listed in the tens. So Zigra is officially only 75 tons, and that is ridiculously light. When comparing monsters like this, I tend to scale. You have to scale them. If you would actually take Zigra out of his universe and put him in Godzilla, he's gonna be bigger. mass-wise, weight-wise. However, they come up with their weights per universe. Both of them are kind of asinine. So the whole, oh, Zigra loses because he's only 75 pounds. That's a cop-out. That's like saying Heisei Godzilla could just beat Hedra by stepping on him because he's 50 meters compared to Godzilla's 100. That's not how fights are done. At least, not in my book. But that's about it, folks. Zigra is this week's monster, and the next monster is slated to be Reikibos. Feel free to join the Kaiju Hugbox, and of course, until next time, peace out, and Minya.
Zilla says you should like and subscribe.